Okay, so you know how I normally have like a paragraph here at the beginning, justifying to some extent why I'm making the video? We don't have time for that. So we're just going to get right into it. Is it possible to beat Kirby Triple Deluxe without jumping? The rules are quite straightforward, and really there's only one. We are not allowed to use the move jump/hover. Our goal is to beat the game without ever using this move. So let's jump into World 1, find fields, and see how we do. Now Stage 1 starts off with this obnoxious jumping tutorial. Unfortunately, since we're a regular Kirby right now without any copy abilities and therefore no jump replacements, we already have to resort to jumping 5 times. Not the best start of a no-jump run. Now, if you've seen any of these Kirby no-jump videos before, you know that the most important thing for us right now is getting our first copy ability. And we're close now. We just have to get over this one Kirby high ledge, and a sword is ours. Luckily for us, if we run into this Waddle Dee from earlier in the stage, he'll start walking straight toward the ledge. With a bit of patience, we can find out that the physics in this game are different from Star Allies, and that getting hit by an enemy doesn't give us enough height to climb a 1 Kirby high ledge. Jump number 6 it is then. But at least now we have our first copy ability, Sword. If you're a regular viewer, then you should know what a sword gives us by now. The upward slash and drill stab are the main moves it gives us. Neither of these moves are amazing, but they come together to give us a decent all-around copy ability. Although the most important thing to us right now is the fact that this sword does allow us to fly infinitely, which makes it much more useful than the regular sword in Star Allies. Nevertheless, even with sword, this first stage has one more wrench to throw in our plans. Hypernova. Hypernova is essentially this game's take on the super copy abilities from Return to Dreamland. So, just like them, instead of a wide array of various moves each useful to achieve different things under different circumstances like a normal copy ability, Hypernova has exactly one move. Sucking. This one move has absolutely no jump replacement utility. Worse still, whenever a stage features Hypernova, it is mandatory to get and use it. And without multiplayer, our only real recourse during these sections is jumping as few times as possible. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, bringing our total jumps coming out of Stage 1 to 16. Luckily, Stage 2 is a bit more hospitable. The entire stage, aside from one portion, is pretty easy to get through with sword. The one exception is this bottleneck. Because the upward slash has a bit of horizontal movement, it's quite difficult to avoid getting stuck on these ceilings. Difficult, but not impossible, which means we can finish Stage 2 without adding any more jumps to our total. Stage 3 is the plaything of our sword, until Hypernova strikes once again. In case you don't know, these things appear about twice every world. Yay. Well, nothing to do but make like Sesame Street and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 more jumps, bringing our total to 34. Stage 4 features another antagonist that is sure to do a great job assisting Hypernova in making this challenge a nightmare. The antagonist in question? keys. If you're unfamiliar with these dastardly little chunks of molded metal, the reason they're so evil is because when you're holding one, your attack button, which is the button we use to activate our jump replacements like the upward slash, instead throw the key. That means while we're holding one, we can't achieve any upwards movement without jumping. Now this key in particular has to make it up this set of platforms to get to a door that we have to unlock to continue the level. Unfortunately, we can't throw it high enough to get it up these platforms. So I'm not sure what to do. All our key-related problems in previous challenges were solved with multiplayer, which we don't have access to in this game. Is this going to be another 3 jumps? Maybe not. I remember reading some comments on previous videos with good things to say about Whip. Whip has one move that can act as a jump replacement, and really it's not even that good. The Whip Tornado is finicky to use, only grants height comparable to a normal jump, and can't fly infinitely. But in spite of all of that, Whip is going to be an essential copy ability in this playthrough, because Whip can move objects like keys around without even picking them up. If we're using Whip, we have a jump replacement that we can use while transporting keys. Using Whip, we can get this key up to the door no problem, which allows us to continue the level, fight this boss, and come into contact with another useful copy ability, Beetle. Beetle is most comparable to Sword. Instead of the upward slash, we have the spiral horn. Instead of the spin drill, we have the rocket horn. In addition, both abilities have attacks sharp enough to cut ropes and grass, but Beetle also has a down air attack that can crush down these logs, which Sword doesn't have. Between the two, my personal preference is Beetle, but regardless, it's good to have a second option for an all-around jack-of-all-trades copy ability. We can get through the rest of the stage without much difficulty using Beetle, although I would like to mention these gondolas, which in most cases we can't use on account of having to jump to get out of them. Nevertheless, they're not mandatory to use here, so we can move on to the World 1 boss. But first, I need to mention a specific mechanic that I'm sure all of you who left comments that I should have been collecting energy spheres in Return to Dreamland are going to love. You need to collect sunstones to unlock the boss stages in this game. To unlock this stage, we need to collect at least 5 sunstones from other stages in Friendly Field. Luckily, I collected 6 without much difficulty. The sunstones I got were the first one in Stage 1, all of them in Stage 2, the first one in Stage 3, and the second one in Stage 4. The Stage 1 sunstone did require 1 jump to get, but you can't actually advance through the rest of the stage without getting it, so we already have that jump counted towards our total. The third one, in Stage 2, is a bit tricky since we have to use Whip to get it, but since there's a Whip and Sword right next to it, getting this stone doesn't really change how we have to play the rest of the level. So yeah, no real trouble unlocking this boss stage, however this mechanic may come back to bite us later. As for the boss fight itself, it's pretty easy unless we can move on to Lollipop Land, no problem. Stage 1 of Lollipop Land can be easily beaten utilizing Beetle. As for the Sunstones, the first and third stones are incredibly easy to obtain. The second requires getting through this puzzle room, which you're meant to solve using Wheel. Unfortunately, Wheel doesn't have much in the way of a useful jump replacement, so we can't use it here. What we can do is stand at the perfect spot where our spiral horn just barely hits the switch while also getting us onto the 3D warp star. Then once the warp star lands, if we quickly rocket horn, we can barely make it through the door just before it closes. This means we can get all 3 sunstones from stage 1 without adding a single jump to our total. The first half of stage 2 is quite easy to get through jumpless as well, and even allows us to nab the first sunstone of the stage without any real difficulty. We also come across another useful copy ability, one which I used to get through this stage: Spear. Just like in Return to Dreamland, Spear grants us our most precise jump replacement in the game, Spearcopter. Unfortunately, with that unmatched precision comes quite a few drawbacks. Firstly, Spearcopter is slow, both in the sense that we can't move quickly with it, but also in the sense that it takes a fair amount of time to charge up before it can be used, making it give us a very poor reaction time. Our second drawback is the fact that we can't fly infinitely with it, which makes its general utility significantly worse. And thirdly, doors suspended in the air, close to the ceiling, are difficult and sometimes flat out impossible to get through while using Spear. That may sound like an incredibly niche problem, but it actually comes up surprisingly often. But in spite of all of that, Spear does get us through the first half of Stage 2 fairly easily. Unfortunately, the second half brings us Hypernova. Once again, our only recourse here is jumping as few times as possible during the segment of the level, which gives us another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 jumps. Bringing our total to 50. Oh well, moving on. Stage 3 is no problem to get through using Spear. As for Sunstones, I was able to get the first one with just a bit of tossing. Now Stage 4, on the other hand, is a haunted stage. Now these stages in general are very bad for us, for reasons that we'll explore in just a moment. First, we need to overcome an obstacle present in this specific stage, a key. This key can be found at the bottom of a fairly significant pit, while the door it unlocks is very much outside said pit. Luckily, by using Whip, we can get this key to the door. Unluckily, we're now pigeonholed into bringing Whip, one of our more generally useless copy abilities, into this stage. And with one of the major motifs of this stage being platforms that quickly disappear after you step on them, I am not looking forward to having to deal with Whip's finicky jump replacement here. However, the stage does offer one alternative: Circus. Our main jump replacement with Circus is Fire Hoop Jump. This move gives us both a respectable amount of height and distance. We also have access to somersaulting, which can do a decent job at clearing minor obstacles. Unfortunately, flight is not possible using Circus, and our jump replacement's trajectories are very inflexible. So while this copy ability isn't amazing, there are some circumstances where it is better than the available alternatives, and right now is one of those times. That being said, it's still not easy. The inflexible jump arcs can be quite troublesome during some parts of the stage, but Circus is sufficient to get us through most of it. There is still one issue though. An issue that not even the best copy ability could get us through unscathed, let alone Circus. It's these mirror sections. They appear in every haunted stage, and this is the first one we're encountering. Now, the reason they're so bad for us is because when entering one of these sections, you lose your copy ability, which means no jump replacements. Then adding insult to injury is the fact that at the end of one of these sections, you have to jump to get your copy ability back. Unfortunately, like with Hypernova sections, the best we can do here is jump as few times as possible. With this particular stage, I found that to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 more jumps to our total, bringing it to 69. On the bright side, we only need 6 sunstones from this world to unlock the boss, which we have acquired. As per usual, the boss fight isn't much of a challenge, and we can move on to Old Odyssey. Wait, what? Ah, that's not right. It's not even that old. Old Odyssey. There we go. Okay. Let's look at stage 1. I went into this stage with Beetle and was able to get through most of the stage pretty easily. In addition to just getting through the stage, I was also able to get the first sunstone. Unfortunately, Hypernova appears in the second half of this stage, With this particular Hypernova section, I did come across one useful trick. So these turnips have to be jumped over, right? Wrong. If you suck it out of the ground, you have enough time to run to the other side before it grows back, eliminating quite a few potential jumps in this section. That's not to say we can avoid all jumps here. We're still left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jumps in this stage. Stage 2 requires us to avoid using gondolas again, but is overall fairly easy, and allows us to get its third sunstone without jumping as well. Stage 3 presents us with this obstacle. Essentially, a switch in the background layer that we need to activate to advance the layer we're currently on. The only way to activate said switch is with this laser device. Unfortunately, this laser device is a held object in the same vein as keys. That means the only way to gain height while actively using the laser is by jumping. And guess where these switches are? So, yeah, there are 2 switches that must be activated that we have to jump to activate. That adds another 2 jumps to our total. As for the rest of the level, we can get through it with a combination of Beetle and Fire, while collecting the second and third sunstones. The final screen is a bit tough to get through while using Fire, but is doable. On to stage 4, which is incredibly easy. Even getting the first and third sunstones is a piece of cake. Now stage 5, on the other hand, is also pretty easy. In the first half at least. It features one of the easiest key-based sunstones thus far in the form of its second sunstone, but then it's Hypernova time, and while I did use some dodging and the like to cut some jumps, this snowman gimmick is brutal. And so this stage results in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 more jumps being added to the total. But hey, on the bright side, the boss only requires 7 sunstones from this world to unlock, which is a standard we have reached. And while Krakow is actually a somewhat difficult boss due to the bottomless pits in the area, we can definitely beat him jumpless and move on to Wild World, with our jump total sitting at 101. Taking on stage 1 with Beetle turned out to be a fun, simple romp, which even included grabbing the first and third sunstones, as well as this fun obstacle at the end, and all without any jumping. These Gordos in stage 2 are a bit tricky to get around, though with a good copy ability, not insurmountable. The rest of the stage isn't all too difficult. As for the sunstones, we can get the first and third without much issue. Then we get to stage 3, which is both haunted and features a Hypernova section. So yeah, there are a few required jumps here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 of them to be precise, bringing our total to 136. The only real silver lining of this stage is that we were able to get the first sunstone in it without adding any more jumps than that. Yay! Stage 4 goes considerably smoother. We do encounter this laser again, but it's completely optional here. Getting through the stage is honestly pretty easy, and we can even grab the second and third sunstones by defeating Blocky quickly and by dodging these snake fire pillar dudes for a bit. Stage 5 is very much cut from the same cloth as stage 4. It is pretty easy to get through jumpless, and while there are quite a few optional things we can't do, the first sunstone in this level is practically a gimme. The boss requires 8 sunstones from Wild World to unlock, which luckily enough is exactly how many we've collected, so we can face the Coily Rattler, which like most boss fights doesn't require any jumping. Now it's time for World 5, Endless Explosions. Starting things off, Stage 1 isn't very difficult to beat jumpless, however, all 3 sunstones seem to be impossible to get without jumping. Next up is Stage 2, which opens with us having to bring this bomb to this explodable wall. Now the throws required to get it across are completely possible. I can't believe I'm saying this, but if it was a key, this wouldn't be too much of a problem. Of course, it's not a key, it's a bomb, which means as soon as we pick it up, we're on a strict time limit, one which may be impossible to overcome. But what if there wasn't a time limit? With Whip, we can achieve just that. Here's how. The bomb's timer only starts ticking once Kirby picks it up. If the bomb doesn't come into contact with Kirby, then the timer doesn't start. And moving an object around using Whip's moves doesn't count as Kirby contacting the bomb. So that's what we can do here. We move the bomb across these obstacles using the Whip Tornado, and only actually pick up the bomb once it's more or less in position. So that's one obstacle cleared. Okay, that's screen 1 down. What's next? Oh. Water cubes suspended over lava. That's bad. This platforming setup renders our Whip ability essentially useless, since the Whip Tornado can only be used while standing on a solid surface. As for our movement abilities under these circumstances, ignoring Whip's moveset, they're pitiful, but they work until this moment. If we could just press the jump button, then our Kirby would rise majestically through the air and then into this higher cube. But we can't do that. Instead, we're limited to just pressing up on the D-pad, which yields us this pathetic upwards momentum. Normally, this isn't much of a problem because we would then immediately use our jump replacement to get the height we need. But again, Whip's jump replacement only works while standing on a solid surface, which mid-air is not. Luckily, we do have another option of a copy ability to use here. Unluckily, it's Spear, which is also terrible for getting out of water with, and really best used from a solid surface as well. Ultimately, we need somewhere to stand on, but there's no such place close enough to be useful. Unless we can stand on lava or something like that. Wait. Can we? Technically, yes. In this game, lava is treated as a solid surface. Just a solid surface that happens to hurt you and destroy your copy ability when you touch it. But that's a bit of a deal breaker. It really doesn't matter whether or not we can stand on the lava if our copy ability gets destroyed as soon as we do so. But what if that wasn't the case? What if I told you that there is a way to stand on lava completely consequence-free? Welcome, my friends, to the beautiful world of invincibility frames. You see, after Kirby takes damage, he is invincible and therefore completely immune to taking any further damage for a few seconds. And yes, that invincibility even extends to lava. That means if we get hit by this enemy, then immediately fall down onto the lava, we have just enough time of invincibility frames to charge up our spear and take flight. And that's that room clear. What's next? A boss fight? Okay. A boss fight that ends with a door suspended slightly above the ground. You've got to be kidding me. Spear literally cannot get past such an obstacle. Back to the drawing board. Okay, so here we are, back at the first obstacle, the bomb. Now, like I've said prior, this obstacle would be doable without Whip if it were a key. All the throws we have to make are possible, it's just a matter of doing it faster. Maybe it is possible without Whip? I mean, maybe. Let's give it a try. Okay, so if done fast enough, and with willingness to kamikaze, we can get past the first hurdle using Beetle. And now that we're taking Beetle instead of Whip or Spear into the rest of the stage, we can get past the previously mentioned obstacles with ease. Although it should be noted that this stage does contain a mild Hypernova section at the end, which forces us to use an additional 6 jumps. But hey, at least the stage is over now, and we can move on, and with the first Sunstone grabbed to boot. Now it's time for Stage 3. This stage's gimmick is all about these encroaching spike walls of doom. They do one of our least favorite things: put us under a strict time limit. This becomes a problem when we encounter an obstacle like this. It's just a shaft that we must go straight up. Unfortunately, none of the copy abilities we've been using up to this point can ascend the shaft quick enough to avoid our demise via crushing. I suppose it's time we try out another copy ability. One that happens to be local to this very stage, in fact. Fighter. Fighter operates in very similar vein to Sword and Beetle. Once again, we have access to a good jump replacement for upwards mobility, this time in the form of the Rising Break. We also gain a decent forward motion focused jump replacement from the Spin Kick. What really matters right now, though, are the subtle differences between these moves and their Sword and Beetle counterparts. For one, the Spin Kick grants upwards movement and not just forwards movement, unlike the dash moves from Sword and Beetle. What's most important now, though, is the Rising Break, which features an interesting trade-off. The Rising Break doesn't just move upwards, it also makes Kirby move forwards a fairly significant distance. But in exchange, this move is by far the best for quick vertical ascension. Quick enough, in fact, to get us past this shaft unscathed. With that obstacle behind us, we can keep on racing these spike walls and get through most of the stage. We even managed to pick up the stage's first Sunstone while we're at it. Then we come face to face with what is quickly becoming an even worse adversary than keys. A bomb. Not just any bomb though, but a bomb on the opposite side of a 3D warp star. This section requires 2 jumps to get past. There's no way to ride this star while holding the bomb without doing a regular jump. So that's 1 jump. The other jump is required to get the bomb out of this hole, which is too deep to throw it out. Theoretically, you could cut this jump out if you had Whip, but we don't have a way, as far as I can tell, to get Whip here jumpless. And even if we did, it would lock us out of getting the Sunstone from earlier. So yeah, 2 jumps here, unfortunately. Moving on, we encounter the grand finale of this stage's gimmick. In this fast-paced, high-intensity chase where we're quickly bouncing from screen to screen, united only in their advancing spike walls of doom. And here, that downside about the Rising Break comes up. You see, this screen requires that you maneuver out from underneath this ledge, and then quickly turn around and move along the top of the ledge to continue. This seemingly simple obstacle is a death sentence for Fighter. Over my hours of attempting to get past this section, due to the forward movement of the Rising Break, I only ever achieved one of 2 results. After finishing the Rising Break, I would either turn around and end up uppercutting the bottom side of the ledge, or I would not turn around and run straight into the spikes. Both of these outcomes, if you can't tell, result in failure. But not to worry, Fighter isn't the only copy ability in the game, so I tried the other copy abilities I had access to in this stage. Wing ended up being basically useless. Sword and Fire failed in the screen before the one that Fighter can't get past. And that's it. That's all the copy abilities we have access to by this part of the level. So, how many jumps to get past this obstacle? Well, according to my notes, it's 0. The only other thing I have written here is Mix. Oh, the copy ability Mix! I'd almost forgotten about it. For the uninitiated, a copyability mix is what occurs when you consume multiple enemies which grant different powers at once. In such a scenario, a roulette of all the copy abilities in the game happens, which means, with a bit of timing or luck and patience, we can gain any copy ability we want should we be able to swallow multiple enemies with different powers at once. And luckily for us, in this stage we can. Here we can consume a Blade Knight and Bomb at the same time, thus triggering the mix. In this particular case, the copy ability we're aiming for is Beetle. With Beetle, we can successfully get past this obstacle, and the one preceding it, and everything the rest of the stage throws at us without any more jumps. Now for stage 4. Things start getting interesting here on the second screen. This screen isn't actually very difficult to get through. Getting the Sunstone, on the other hand. So you need to get a key from one side of the screen to the other. It's utterly impossible with any copy ability other than Whip. So we can just use Whip and get the Sunstone, which is fine at all. Until we actually try to leave the screen and find that Whip can't get us high enough. And the only other copy ability we can get from here is Leaf, or so it appears. One interesting thing about collecting Sunstones is that if you die after acquiring them, you keep the progress that you had gotten, even if you die on the same screen that the Sunstone is located on. So what we can actually do here, after collecting the Sunstone, is mosey on over to some spikes and die. Upon respawning, we find ourselves conveniently close to a land zone, which we can just barely suck up and give ourselves the Spear copy ability. With Spear, we can clear the screen, no problem. Unfortunately, we eventually run into this screen, in which we once again confront Spear's biggest weakness: doors suspended in the air. The only other copy abilities we encounter on our way to this point are Archer and Bomb, neither of which help us here. We do, however, encounter them together, and you know what that means. A copy ability mix is available to us. I got Beetle and was able to go through the suspended door, no problem, and in fact make it all the way to a Hypernova section. This section requires 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to get through. I'm really getting tired of these things. Stage 5 is just a mini boss rush, and by extension, pretty easy. So easy, in fact, that not only can we get through the whole stage jumpless, we can also get all 4 Sunstones in the stage without jumping as well. Unfortunately, even with such a strong showing in stage 5, we still only have 7 Sunstones from Endless Explosions, falling quite short of the 10 we need to unlock the boss stage. I suppose we ought to take another look at these Sunstones and see if they are actually impossible to get jumpless. In stage 1, we can't get any of the Sunstones jumpless on account of the first requiring us to get a key across some lava using a tilt gondola, which would require 2 jumps, one to get in the gondola with the key and the other to get out of the gondola. To get the second one, you need to use either Ice or Parasol, neither of which have sufficient enough jump replacements to get the Sunstone jumpless. And the third lies at the end of a challenge that demands we use Wheel, which again does not have a good enough jump replacement to be useful to us. In stage 2, the second Sunstone is the reward for a challenge in which you have to use rock to crush these stumps. I did try using Beetle to solve the challenge, but Beetle just doesn't seem to be fast enough. The other 2 we're missing in this level are in the Hypernova section, so no dice there. Stage 3's second Sunstone requires you to get the bomb in the second section to an even more difficult place. This bomb already adds 2 jumps to our total without going for the Sunstone, and without something like Whip, which we can't get here jumpless, there's no way we're getting this Sunstone without adding some jumps. The third one is the most frustrating one because if I could get the right copy ability like Fighter to this last part of the stage, we could get it no problem. Unfortunately, we're stuck with Beetle by the time we get to this part of the stage, which simply ascends too slowly to allow us to get this Sunstone. And finally, stage 4 features a Sunstone that you need to use Archer to get, which is a copy ability that doesn't give us much of anything in the way of jump replacements. And then 2 sunstones in the Hypernova section. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to settle for the least number of jumps added for these remaining sunstones. The last one in stage 4 is an easy grab if we've given up on being perfect, since it's right there. You just jump once and you have it. A slightly less ideal one, but still our best in my research, is stage 2's third one, which is 2 extra jumps for us. And finally, the last one in stage 1 might be possible jumpless. So I got to thinking, why do we need Wheel for this one anyway? Just because it's fast? Wheel doesn't have a monopoly on being fast. Take Fire for example. Its dash attack is really fast, and I bet with enough skill we can get through this challenge and get the stone without any extra jumps. And what do you know? We can. Alright, that's 10 sunstones now. Time to fight the boss and be done with World 5. Now with a current total of 151 jumps thus far. World 6, please be merciful. So, World 6, Stage 1. It's actually pretty easy to clear jumpless, and getting all 3 sunstones in the stage isn't much of a problem either. World 6, I like you already. Stage 2 is a bit of a boss rush, and historically bosses haven't been much of a problem for us in these challenges, and the trend doesn't break here. We can get through this stage jumpless. Unfortunately, the sunstone in this stage can't be acquired jumpless, but either way, it's time for stage 3. I suppose I shouldn't have gotten used to World 6's hospitality. Welcome to stage 3. The Hypernova Greatest Hits stage. You know what? I'm done with this whole Sesame Street routine. It's 44 jumps to beat the level, and that's without getting any sunstones. The Ghost House section is particularly annoying because it's maze-like, so the only way you get through that with the minimum number of jumps is if you've memorized ahead of time what the correct door in the section is. I wonder what stage 4 has for us, after the most jumps we've had in a single stage yet. Well, after that disaster of a stage, it would seem that our fortunes are improving. For stage 4 is Boss Rush 2. Bosses have never really been a problem in this challenge, so it isn't too difficult to beat this stage, and even now, it's one and only sunstone, without even thinking about jumping. Now for stage 5. The first half is not easy, but using abilities like Fighter and Beetle, it can be beaten jumpless, even while getting the stage's second sunstone. The difficulty reaches its peak at about the halfway point with this crushing room thing. Personally, I found that Beetle had the best combination of precision and speed to get through this part jumpless. And then the next half of the stage is a Hypernova section. This particular one causes us to jump 27 times. So that means, with all the pre-final boss levels beaten, we're sitting at a total of 222 jumps. But wait, there's more! We only have 5 sunstones collected from Royal Road, 2 less than the 7 required to unlock the final battle. As far as I can tell, we can't get any more sunstones from Royal Road without increasing our jump total. So our best bet is a sunstone from stage 2 and a sunstone from stage 3, each of which require 1 jump to get, bringing our total up to 224 jumps. Perhaps we can at least have victory in the final boss fight? Let's find out. So this stage has a lot of bosses in it, and of course bosses are generally not much of an issue in these challenges, and that holds true here, for the most part. Queen Sectonia's final form is actually pretty difficult. Personally, I blame the platform layout, which makes it so falling to your death is much easier, as well as ensuring that a lost copy ability is likely going to fall to its death as well. Nevertheless, it is possible. Wait, what's this? Another phase? No. Tonanza, you traitorous scum! I cannot take another Hypernova section. Please, spare me this. So I guess this is our grand finale, eh? A Hypernova section. What a great moment to end this challenge off on. A Hypernova section. That requires no jumps. I didn't think it was possible either, but this whole section of the boss fight takes place on one long, solid platform. Hypernova, I still hate you, but I'm glad you didn't ruin this challenging, climactic boss fight. So, is it possible to beat Kirby Triple Deluxe without jumping? Have you even been paying attention? No! No, it's not possible to beat Kirby Triple Deluxe without jumping. Not by a long shot. 224 jumps. 224! That's the minimum as best as I can tell. But who knows, I could be completely wrong. Maybe I missed some exploits or shortcuts, or maybe I was just being an idiot at some point. Maybe you can shave down the total a bit. Not that I'd recommend it. Unless, of course, you're a bit mad, or wouldn't mind going a bit mad. No, I'd recommend watching this torture from a distance. Perhaps by watching some of my other challenge videos. And subscribing to the challenge so you know when new ones come out. And please, I'm begging you, if there is anyone in your life that may at some point consider trying this challenge for themselves, like this video, comment on it, share it on social media if you have to. Just help get the word out so that no sane person ever unwittingly subjects themselves again to this maddening, depressing, fruitless challenge. And until next time, I've been CMeeCraft, and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.